Hey Jabbers, we are back today with another mini episode. Today we're talking about how to thank your wedding vendors and some tipping etiquette 101. So, if you're getting married soon or if you're a wedding vendor and wondering what's the best way to thank the vendors and how should you or your couple be tipping them, we're going to dive into the best practices and how we can support small businesses with a thank you or a cash tip because we all love a little extra money.
We do. This is a really interesting topic and something that's I would say a hot topic for forever because there are so many different thoughts on this. I want to just share a thought that something that stuck with me for a long time, and I try to share this with my couples, and people may disagree, but I read somewhere that a tip should be a little extra for someone who went a little extra, basically. So
Mm.
someone who goes above and beyond is could receive a little bit of extra money as a tip. Now, I will say there are some providers, like some wedding providers that I would say are mandatory tipping for me, which is catering, bar. Those would be the two I would think like hands down non-negotiable because they're providing this like food and beverage service. It's similar
Right.
to you're getting served, you're getting, at your table, whatnot. And I think maybe hair and makeup is something that's more of like a salon style thing where you would tip
Right.
typically at a salon. But other than that, I'm curious your thoughts on actual cash tipping. What do you recommend to your clients and what do you say is like a non-negotiable versus optional?
Yeah, I've created it like a tipping guide for clients that I'll typically send to them, and it's always with the caveat of totally optional. Here's a guide if you want to do it, which I would say like 95% of my clients will tip all of their vendors. And so yeah, it basically breaks down every category of vendor and then gives like a suggestion. But I would agree with you. I think catering and bartending and probably hair and makeup do feel like the ones that are like, yes, you need to tip these people. It's I think because it's similar to going out to eat at a restaurant and it's just like such a standard practice here in the US.
Mhm.
So it's like I think people feel slighted as like the catering staff when they're not getting a tip. Although I would say I think that caterers and bartenders working a wedding are getting paid a normal wage per hour versus like where at a restaurant they're getting minimum wage and then their tips are really
Yes.
their salary. So that is a difference. So it's like sometimes when clients don't tip them, yes, they're disappointed, but I'm like, it's not like they made $7 an hour all night
Right.
long.
Right. And I recommend, so I tell couples that I don't believe that this should be 20% of the total bill. I
Right.
think it should be a cash tip per server, kitchen staff, service captain, like put it in envelopes, count, ask the company ahead of time, how many people will you have?
Yep.
I do like the idea of everybody being tipped the same on the team because they're all doing hard work. Some people say like service captain or chef should have more, whatever. But I work for catering company and we don't always get tipped. But when we do, and they have it divided into individual envelopes per person, I think that's the way to go. And I don't believe on the other side that our clients should be tipping, $5,000 on their catering bill because that's what 20% was. Because to your point, they are getting paid an hourly rate that's above minimum wage.
Right. And I always tell clients too, like if you are doing the percentage of the bill, like take out, basically do it on the food and beverage, right? Like
Sure.
don't include all the services, like taxes, all of that.
Yes.
Um, and some people don't even do because like that can be a lot of money. Like, sometimes it's like $20,000, but I'm like, even if you're giving like the service caption like a $300 tip and then the rest of them maybe like 100, like it's still something.
Yeah.
So like it's kind of up to their discretion as well on what they feel is appropriate.
Yeah.
And I never like to tell them exactly. So I'm like, here's a suggestion and like you make that decision based on what you feel is appropriate. And a
Agreed.
lot of times bartenders at weddings, they like put out a tip jar. So they're getting like an extra tip from the guest on top of what the client is giving them. So really the bartenders are making it out pretty good at a
Oh.
wedding.
Okay, let's talk about that really quick. What are your thoughts on bar tipping etiquette? Because I think there's a couple camps here, and I'd love to know what you think.
So usually I ask my client, like, do you want the bartenders to put out a tip jar? Some clients do not want that to happen because they don't want their guests to feel obligated to leave money. And they're like, we're already tipping them. So I think that's a fair thing. Some people, again, will be like, sure, they can put out the tip jar. And we'll still tip them. And then other people are like, no, if they're putting out the tip jar, like that's their tip. And I find a lot too at weddings, the bartenders are like, can we put out a tip jar? Because people are still giving us money and
Right.
we don't know where to put it. Like, you're going to have it. People are drunk. They're like, thank you for making that cocktail 5 times for me. They're going to leave money regardless, just out of their own volition. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple ways to go about it, but I think it's appropriate to always ask, like, would you like a tip jar out?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's good to ask. One thing, again, I work for catering companies sometimes and I bartend. And one of the things with this company, there is a strict no tip jar policy.
Mm.
However, we can be given cash and keep the jar under the bar. So we can put it in there. And I kind of like that. One, aesthetically, for the bar
Yeah.
shots, like for photos of
Yeah.
the bar, I love not having just ugly cash because let's be honest, US cash is ugly looking. And having that on the tip jar or on the bar. But also, I think to your point, today's generation, they know they probably are going to tip. And so they're okay just handing a couple bucks after each drink and whatnot. And it's easy for the bartender to go and put it under the bar. Um, I do have to still check companies sometimes because I have found that the communication from who we did the sales with and who we agreed to not put a top, like if the client says we will pre-tip,
Right.
when it comes to the wedding day, sometimes that has not been communicated and and I see the tip jar go up and I'll say, "Hey, the client has pre-tipped. Can you make sure to pull that tip jar down?" And so that's important to check sometimes. They don't always It's not always the same people doing the sales and actual bartending and they may not remember to
That's a good
communicate
point.
that.
Yeah. As a side note, I was just thinking Gabby is so multifaceted, you guys. She's a bartender, she's a wedding planner, she
Yeah.
can serve or do catering at weddings.
It's terrible. I No, I
I
will
love
not
it.
do not you cannot hire me for your wedding catering needs. I just work with this one company. And honestly, I do it because I get access to really cool venues in Nashville. I've been to A-list celebrities' homes. I signed an NDA, so I can't tell you who it was, but I've been to like A-list celebrities' homes to cater their events. I just like
That's
nosy.
cool.
I
Yeah.
like doing it. And it's like a little extra cash on the side during slow season. I don't do it during my peak season, but
Yeah.
um, anyway, it's so
And
fun,
there's
and I've
also
been
no pressure. It's kind
there's
of like
no
a
pressure.
fun little like show up and go home
Oh my god,
and
I just pass
have a little
appetizers
fun.
and make
Yeah,
cocktails that I don't know how to make, and so I have to Google it in the moment. I'm like, "Ah, yeah, here's a Manhattan."
that's amazing.
But anyway,
So I guess with that, what do you kind of suggest to clients? Because sometimes people say like clients will say like business owners shouldn't get the tips, but they'll tip the rest of the team, which has happened to me before. Um, yeah, I would love your thoughts on that.
yeah, I don't agree. I don't think that's who made up that rule? Like,
I know.
if
Yeah.
I don't think, okay, if the business owner is not present at the wedding, of course they shouldn't get tipped. I think
Right.
the people that are present and performing the actual planning coordination on site are the people that should get tipped. So I don't think that rule makes sense. However, I would never build my business in a way that it depends on tips for my livable wage. And I do think we still find those businesses like in some of the Facebook groups that we're in, Kari. Like sometimes I see people complaining that they didn't get tipped. And I'm like, I never go home feeling bad that I didn't get tipped. Of course, sometimes I'm bummed because, like, if there was a really hard situation that we handled and the client knew about it and there was no thank you or anything like that, it's
Sure.
a bummer. But I never leave thinking I've been underpaid because I didn't get tipped.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think sometimes maybe it feels disappointing when it's like you've put like a ton of time and effort into it and they've like tipped everybody else and you're not getting tipped. I mean that has like rarely ever happened though. but I know some people who like post things about it. And I'm with you. I feel like a lot of times it's either from a client like they've given me like a really nice gift or like, and even that to me is like so nice. I'm like it's the
Yeah.
thought that they like put together this little gift and like bought me something. And so I feel like typically my clients are doing like a gift or a cash tip, and it's like I'm so grateful for that. It's really
Yeah.
kind of them. But I feel like one of the things for me and a lot of other vendors too is like leaving reviews and like
Oh my God.
post wedding. I'm always following up with clients and like, please leave me a review online and like, talk to people. Like referrals, word of mouth referrals is the best thing. So if you had a great experience with me, like tell your friends that are getting married or someone else who's looking for a planner.
Yeah.
And that's how we've gotten a lot of our business. But I feel like that goes way further than the cash tip, right? Again, like always nice to have, but if you're leaving amazing reviews and referring us, like that is like the biggest thank you of all time.
It's so true because that is how, yeah, that is how we're getting business, like you said. And if you think about it financially, getting another client is bringing us more money than getting a cash tip in that moment, and that the sales funnel ends there, you know? So, oh my gosh, yeah. And I'll be honest, I find it really hard to get reviews nowadays. And I'm wondering, like, do I need to give people a $10 Starbucks gift card for them to leave me a
Yeah.
good review? Like, truly.
Yeah.
And that could be a whole episode on like reviews and how to get that continuous word of mouth sales, because I do feel like we get a lot of venue and vendor recommendations, but I don't get a lot of client recommendations, even though most everyone, we can talk about that another day, but most everyone leaves happy.
Yeah.
And if they were to write a review, it'd be a 5-star review, but they don't do it.
And sometimes I'm like, I'll usually if I get like a text message the next day from them that is just like, thank you so much. Like, just like this really sweet text message. I almost want to be like, can I put this as a review on my website for you?
Yeah.
Or just like copy and paste it, because I feel like those messages are so sweet that I just want to like share that with other potential clients too.
You should. I screenshot all of my
Yeah.
texts that I get, and I at least share it with the team because sometimes
Yeah.
we don't hear it, and it's good to remind, like, and I actually have a folder on our Google Drive that's like something like reviews if you ever feel sad. And like if you're having a really hard time with a client, or you're like overwhelmed, or it's peak season and you're struggling, like reading those reviews and realizing that we are damn good planners brightens my day so much. And so yeah, I would love for clients to review us. It's so helpful.
That's a great idea. And speaking of reviews, kind of the last thing, I think, if you are a small business owner and your client's unhappy with either you or another vendor, I think it's so important to like have a conversation with them post event to really talk through like what went wrong, get clarification on both sides and see if there is like a solution to rectify the situation, or if a simple apology, is needed, or like money back, whatever is appropriate. But I think avoiding the client leaving a bad review is a big thing because sometimes some clients need to be reminded like, hey, we're like a one person or two person small business. And it's not like it's some big company that like a bad review isn't going to hurt us because it will. And I think if you're aligning yourself with the right clients, they're not going to leave that bad review. They're going to allow you to apologize or rectify the situation. But I think it's always worth having that conversation to be like, what can we do to make it right if something were to happen?
Yeah, we're going through that right now, actually. And I'll have to report back with the outcome. But essentially, one of my lead planners had a very difficult client that what it sounds like is that they, at the end of the day, didn't fully read and understand what was included in our wedding management package. And the planner went above and beyond. I know that for a fact. There are so many things that happened that were out of her control that she found solutions for, that I'm like, this girl, could run for president at this point. And the clients send me this long email with bullet points of everything they say the planner did wrong. And my planner had something for every, she had an answer or solution for every bullet point. So we went back and forth just between me and my planner, and then me and the client. And essentially, I sent a nice email back, but I said, I really believe that she went above and beyond. She addressed all of these issues. I mentioned a couple of them. And then I said, if you want to have a call, all of us, let's do it. And I was not expecting them to take us up on that. But sure enough, they want to
Oh,
schedule a Zoom call, which I've never had happen. And she wants to know more about perhaps what she misunderstood in the package and stuff like that. So we're there now. We're literally, when this episode goes live, we will have had the call. So I will try to report back, but it's nerve wracking. It feels uncomfortable. My planner is obviously distraught. She's like, I never want anyone to leave feeling unsatisfied, but there were so
yeah.
many things that happened at this wedding that were out of her control that like it all fell back on her.
Yeah.
um, so anyway, it's tough, but to your point, I think what not to do is like being disgruntled and being negative and telling them they didn't understand and too bad. Like I think having the conversation is the best we can do. There will be no refunds, there will be nothing because
Right.
we know we did our best.
Right.
So yeah, of miscommunication hopefully overall, but I don't think it'll lead to a bad review, but if it does, I can at least reply under the review and say, "Hey, we actually had a conversation about this in case you forgot."
Yeah.
Biatch. No.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't turn to that.
No. No.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think again, all of that to say, tip when appropriate and, kind of at your own discretion, but also like leave reviews for your small businesses that you're working with. Like we really do appreciate it and it helps our businesses grow. And it just goes a long way. So
And
yeah.
peer to peer, like
Yeah.
vendors that you loved working with, leave reviews. That's actually so, so fun to do in your off season. Whoever you loved working with, that helps them out a ton.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Well, yeah, if anyone jabbers, if you have questions or you want to share, more thoughts about tipping and vendor etiquette, uh, feel free to email us or send us a message on Instagram. But we will see you next time, probably with another mini-sode. We'll stay tuned for more topics, but we'll see you next time.
Bye, Jabbers.